And as usual, it's a health show. I love to bring you the latest in health and what we've learned, and a little bit about the topics that are the burning issues regarding health in the news nowadays. And this is exactly what today's show is about. And we have got a super awesome show, which I'd like to share with you. Now, I would be very keen on some participation after I tell you what the subject matter of today's show is going to be. And I'd like you to text and WhatsApp on 07745 278 978, or you can call us on the studio telephone number on 01733 602 133. Peterborough's only community Muslim radio station, broadcasted on 106.2 FM and online, meaning that we are on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. Feel free to have a look at the video on Facebook Live, and indeed, I would be extremely endeared if you could write us some questions, and we'd be very, very welcome to answer those questions. Now, I'd like to introduce first of all my main guest, or my very special guest we've had on the show before. We gained a lot of popularity, and we also got a lot of good feedback about one of my actual first specialist guests on the show, which I was very privileged to have. And we once again have his valuable time with us. And we have Dr. Shahid Latif, who's a consultant psychiatrist, clinical director in the National Health Service, and also a member of the Trent Division Executive Committee involved in influencing policy making related to recruitment, job planning, service development and provision. He's also the Royal College of Psychiatrists Transcultural Chair, in which he has done much work in the field of mental health and its association with various cultures. His most recent feather in his cap is being awarded Fellowship of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Now, Dr. Latif has lectured in many international platforms in this regard and has been the guest of notable TV programmes, including the British Muslim TV, and more recently been a frequent guest on BBC Radio Asia Network. And I do listen to his shows. They're wonderful shows, a lot to learn from. He's the chair of the Association of Pakistani Physicians and Surgeons, United Kingdom, the East Midlands chapter, and if that wasn't enough to add to his credit, he's also the anchor of a health show for a radio station in Leicester. So what we're going to be discussing today, first of all, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Latif, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Shabina, you're very kind for all those connections. Just one clarity.
Yes.
I'm a former chair of the Association of Pakistani Physicians for the Midlands chapter. That was up until the middle of this year.
Okay.
So no, but I am on the board of directors for APPS UK, as it's now APPS UK. No longer the chair of the Midland chapter, though.
Oh, well, I do indeed know very well from knowing you, obviously from personally as well, Dr. Latif, that whatever you do in whichever sphere of life you go into, you will definitely have a positive influence on those that live and work around you, mashallah. So that's wonderful, and thank you very much for the update. So what we're going to be talking about today is work and mental health. Now, the reason why I decided to talk about this is recently, on around the end of October in 2017, there was a report released which is known as the Thriving at Work report, which was published again in the last week of October. And the report that was published, the Thriving at Work report, stated that about 300,000 people with long-term mental health problems lose their jobs each year in a review that was commissioned by the Prime Minister Theresa May. And it puts the annual cost of the UK economy of poor mental health up to £99 billion, of which £42 billion is borne by employers. The authors of this report were the Mind Chief Executive Paul Farmer and the Mental Health Campaigner and a former HBOS Chair Dennis Stevenson. And they said that they were shocked to find the number of people forced to stop work as a result of mental health problems was 50% higher than for those with physical health conditions. Dr. Latif, there's obviously something going wrong here. These figures are quite staggering. What do you have to say?
Absolutely, Shabina. Thank you for those figures. And you're absolutely right that these are staggering, and it's something that has to be taken very serious of. But you know what?
Yeah.
Being in this profession since the last 20 years, I'm not surprised. What this actually denotes, or what this actually points out, is that mental health is it's becoming recognized more and more.
Yeah.
It's increasing, but what is being seen now with all these reports coming out, it's becoming recognized more.
Yeah.
Now, if this report had come out 10 years ago, you would have had, if not slightly less in a percentage, but, we would have been a similar kind of a a scenario where we're sitting here and saying, wow, look at this, look at the impact that mental health has on people's work,
Yes.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's staggering, but I'm not surprised, because the practice and the people that I see, because, Shabina, what happens is that it's people like you and me who can actually experience some of these of these mental health problems, most commonly depression, anxiety, stress, and you would probably having read the paper, they're saying that 60% of people actually experience mental health problems who are working. That is staggering. That is high.
That is very, very high. And in terms of support, and this is exactly what the report recommended, Dr. Latif, in terms of report and what now workplaces should be actively doing. But it's about trying to identify that at the offset to see what people feel in terms of work-life balance. We all know in our own professions, especially related to the medical profession, there is an element of stress involved, but we are always made aware of trying to achieve that work-life balance, which is essentially very important. It's not easily achievable all the time, I must say. There will be good days and bad days, but the actual importance of recognizing that, and you will know, Dr. Latif, that things such as mindfulness is now very much advocated within the medical profession to undertake. And do you see a lot of deteriorating, I would say, mental health problems coming from secondary care and that expert level of, knowledge that you have, in which work has actually caused some mental health problems, and we've seen patients go downwards on a slippery slope? What's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we need to establish is that what causes at work, what causes mental health problems, what causes stress. Now, anybody can feel stress at any time. Someone coming on your show, they may bring up some levels of anxiety, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about stress leading to mental health problems. Mental health problem, as highlighted earlier on, things like anxiety and depression as a starting point, the most commonest ones.
Yeah.
But you see, before we even go there, the important thing to understand is what causes these, or what may cause this, or what may lead to these. And it's without any doubt, you being a doctor yourself, the amount of stress that you have to go through as a GP, as a general practitioner, working the NHS itself. It's not an easy job.
It's not.
With the resource implications, it means more work for individuals, and more work actually means more stress.
Yes.
More stress means we have to manage ourselves better, and for that we would use mindfulness, which is really important. And then we have to think about, do these individuals who are working in that specific sphere, do they have the emotional resilience to be able to manage the changes that are going on around them? Many people may, but when we're talking about in every 10 people, 6 people will be experiencing mental health problems. That's staggering. That means that there is something going wrong, either by the individuals who are experiencing those not understanding what they're going through, or it's at the other end where we have employees not understanding or providing the resources or the platform for individuals to be able to manage the stress or the mental health difficulties that they're experiencing. And next step after that, even if they are, what actions are taken after that? So you see, these 3 things are really important. It's a two-way traffic, because the individual first has to be able to talk. Now, there may be a lot of reasons why the individual. So, for example, if I experience stress at work and it's starting to build up, who do I talk to?
Yeah.
If I don't talk to anyone, what's the reason?
Yeah.
Is it because the supportive network isn't there? If the supportive network is there, what are maybe the other reasons which I might not be able to talk? Is it I might feel that I might be victimized, discriminated against? I might be, it might cause me further distress. Would there be shame, stigma? All these things come to the fore, and these are reasons. Or no, many of things might not be there, or there may not be resources. There may be relationship breakdowns or relationship problems within the management structure where individuals may not be given the opportunity. So that's from one side. Then comes the other side, which we've touched on, and that is from the employees and what's important. We do have first aid kits for individuals within services or organizations to be a first aid provider.
Yeah.
Similarly, what we need, and something that's being done and talked about, which was also mentioned in this paper, which is really welcoming is first aid kit for employees, to have somebody who would be able to understand and be referred to, so that they can understand that people who do describe feeling stressed, where are they, what can be done, and if it goes to the next level of becoming a mental health problem, then what needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't agree with you more there, Dr. Latif. The thing that I tend to sort of worry about is I've had the opportunity to live in different countries around the world, Australia being one of them. And when we think about work and structure and possibly not quality of life, but ways of life, how people sort of operate, Australia is not too different to the United Kingdom. It is a British colony, was a British colony. And the fact of the matter is that the differences that I experienced were the structures. Now, we all know that majority of jobs that take place here that are of a non-shift nature, a lot of people may say that they're contracted to work 9 to 5 and often find themselves that they're not actually working 9 to 5, they're working a lot longer than that, which can lead to other symptoms of feeling tired, feeling burnt out, and not getting back. A lot of people aren't paid overtime. This then runs into them not enjoying time with family, not having the opportunity to wind down, and it becomes a vicious circle. Don't you think it's about time that the government actually did something now to look at the working structure, because it is quite hard on? And there are countries like France, for example, which have now made it the law that employees are now not allowed to answer or not obliged to answer emails after work. We know that no such structure exists over here, so surely something a lot more higher up needs to be done to facilitate change within the workplace itself. What do you think?
You're absolutely right, Shabina. And interestingly, you just mentioned the word emails. They're one of the things in this new report that's come out is how about emails, and there needs to be a fixed time and structure as to if someone is contracted to work 9 to 5, at what time, if they are given emails or they are given mobile phones too, so that can be communicated. So there is a fair understanding as to what is the maximum time they need to respond to. So they're not obliged to respond to emails, which is very easily people. But you see, that's all fair and square. We have different kind of people. We have different kind of personalities. And people do work very hard, Shabina. People do stay back with the goodness in their heart. There is a lot of goodwill within different people. I'm going to talk about the health sector specifically because that's what I'm familiar with. But, when we talk to patients, people are, they do work very hard in different spheres of life. And even if people are given a cut-off time, there are issues where people, or there are situations where people do respond or do get back to responding to emails, etc. But you see, these kind of little things build up, and it's for individuals to understand. That's what I was talking about earlier on, that it's a two-way traffic. One thing is these things can be put in place, but do individuals then understand as to what is it that can help them or assist them managing their emotions, help them manage their distress, help them manage their mental health difficulties and stress. Now, you've mentioned Australia. Now, Australia, obviously you worked there, so you've got better experience of knowing what the structure. You said it's very familiar, very similar. When I do talk to some of my friends or colleagues who I used to work with who have moved to Australia, one of the reasons why they would have done that is because they feel they can they have more extracurricular activities because of the outdoors. Now that is very, very important, and you already touched on lifestyle. Now lifestyle is so important, and I know it's the old adage, but it's so important, and we always talk about things like work, rest, and play. Now, if we as individuals sort of break that down and say, how much time in a week, or let's divide it in a day. On a particular day, how much time do we spend on work? How much time do we rest? And how much time do we spend on play? By play, we mean talking about leisure activities, talking about, something that we enjoy, like hobbies, etc. Or even going, doing some charity work, etc. So going to the gym, going for a jog, going out with family, something that helps them wind down, basically. That's what play would be. So that's the first thing. So it's the old adage, it's work, rest and play. And again, within that comes other things like what's our diet like? What's our hydration like?
Yeah.
What do we do in relation to our hobbies? What do we do in relation to when we're at work? Do we take rest? One of the things that is a major problem is that many people are doing many things at the same time, and that's a major issue. And I'm going to actually bring in here the mobile phone, the smartphone,
Yeah.
and how many things pop up on the smartphone, and how distracting things around us can be, and how it all adds up and impacts. And this is for us as individuals to basically to have a better understanding of why do we allow, what is it that we are allowing us to feel stressed? When we're at work, are we focusing specifically? We might be attending to an email and then another email pops up and then we look at that email and then go back to the other email and another email pops up and then the phone rings and then the receptionist wants to talk to you about something and then the what do you call it, the your colleague wants to, or the nurse wants to, or somebody. So many things are happening at the same time. It's our responsibility, Shabina, that we make sure that we boundary what we do at certain times. And we are guilty as individuals to cross those boundaries and do too many things for the goodness, not for anything else.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. But the second thing is also very important, and that's where the report basically focuses. I mean, the report has focused on employees.
Yeah.
And that's very, very important. But I would take a step back and also look at ourselves as individuals and see how we really manage ourselves. If we're not able to manage ourselves, then the second part is how we bring in our workplace and our employees and our line managers and any other individual who may have the whole package or apparatus or the arsenal or ammunition of being a first aider and knowing what to do. That's the second part. So if the first thing isn't done, first part, the second part just becomes just a formality.
That's right. I do agree with you, Dr. Latif, to the extent that, yes, we all do have a responsibility. And this is something that I say in most of my shows. The thing that comes to mind, however, especially with you giving the example of the NHS, for example. Now, in primary care, we all know, and all of us are subject to the problem with lack of funding. More so, I would say mental health is obviously an area which now definitely needs to be looked at if they're thinking of improving these figures. And there are no amount. I think I would lose count of the amount of times I've seen a colleague health professional within my capacity as a GP who has come to me presented burnt out, signed off sick. On some occasions, they have dependents. On some occasions, those dependents have additional needs, such as learning disabilities. They're disabled. And you have a patient in front of you who is exasperated because they have embarked down that path of putting in just that little bit more extra because the NHS is short-staffed. They've been asked to do it. But at the end, what happens? They suffer. They don't get the support they need, and they find themselves actually being embroiled in a system whereby they are questioned, they are judged. It's a very thankless environment it becomes for them. And it's such people that you see who then, people like myself and yourself, when their condition deteriorates, then have to end up really looking after, when you know that so much could have been done to actually avoid them from, deteriorating or addressing their needs in the first place. And Australia, I recently brought up because it was my husband who was there doing a fellowship. We went out there for 6 months as a family. And it was surprising in a way that work would finish at 4, and the minute 4 o'clock comes, obviously within the medical profession, it's not that you will be seeing a patient and then you just stop them and leave everything and drop and go away. No, it's then that the clock starts ticking. And when the clock starts ticking, you're paid, say, an extra $100 an hour or $200 an hour, whatever the rate was, so that at least you had in the back of your mind that actually, I am doing this extra work. I've been paid for what I need to be working, and I've got to do this extra work, but there's the reward at the end of it. And I know money's not everything, but that sort of the level of mental health and the level of burnout over there was actually a lot less than what you see within the United Kingdom. And again, you don't have a system like the NHS anywhere in the world, and it is. They are very trying times and testing times, Dr. Latif, as you say. But what we can do to help ourselves no other health professional can do if we don't really help ourselves. But it would be very interesting to have a look at those aspects as well. How are we actually treating employees when they do
absolutely.
actually, the structure of working, Dr. Latif?
Absolutely. And that's why this report that's come out is really welcome.
Yeah.
Because it very much looks in these areas and what you've touched on, Shabina.
Yeah.
And what are the signs of burnout? What are the signs of knowing that someone, there's ongoing stress at work? You've touched on one of them. Calling in sick.
Yeah.
Turnover. More complaints, irritability amongst staff. Sickness is one of them. So these are the kind of things, grievances, complaints coming back. When these kind of things start coming in, I think it's our responsibility as well as employees. I'm glad that employees have been given this responsibility. It's but also for us to start highlighting these. I mean, myself being a clinician and in management as well, I'm very much acutely conscious of these things within my team, that when there are such dynamics which appear, one has to start questioning them. And I think this is what most managers have to start doing, that rather than going down the route of punitive measures or disciplinary, etc., I think there needs to be a better analysis of why certain dynamics are occurring in certain teams or organizations, or in your case, practices, etc. You see, so I think it is the responsibility, and you're absolutely spot on, Shabina, that this is something that senior management will need to take on board, that if certain situations, which we've just touched on in those bullet points, if these are occurring, there needs to be better understanding why it's happening. And you're right, because one of the things that avoids burnout is recognition and reward, and knowing that one is achieving something for the extra work and it's being recognized. And I think that's fantastic. That's I think maybe that's something that we need to learn from, because it's not going to get any easier.
No.
With the whole Brexit issue, and with the whole the clampdown on people coming into the country. I'm talking about professionals. A lot of people leaving the country, people retiring earlier. It's only going to get more difficult. So you're absolutely right that it's timely, this report, but the report is out there. But it's also, I think, important as to how we put this thing into practice, into everything that has been highlighted. And it's for people like yourself and myself and people who are in organizations to be able to highlight these issues as to when certain things occur, what are the main reasons behind them? And if it's overwork, what can the overwork lead to? And as you've already highlighted, the amount of the 70 to 105 billion pounds is the amount that's actually spent on stress and burnout and work-related issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we have your expertise on board, because it would be very interesting. Obviously, you see sort of what I would say is a lot of, what has been happening. I think we've actually lost Dr. Latif. I'm going to get him back again. So we'll just give him another call over here. See if we can get him back. But in the meantime, what I think I'm going to do is I've got a question over here. I've got a question over here. I can see that a lot of people have joined. We're going to be carrying on with the show. And I think we've had a technical failure. We are going to try and get Dr. Latif back on as soon as we possibly can. And in the meantime, we've got some good comments that have come through. Just to make you aware, this show is on the recent government report that was recently highlighted by Theresa May, the Prime Minister, that was known as the Thriving at Work report, published at the end of October. But the annual cost to the UK economy of poor mental health up at £99 billion, of which about £42 billion is borne by employers. The fact of the matter is that how much do employers need to do? Some recommendations were set out. Dr. Latif has spoken about the 6 areas in which the employers should be contributing, and some of those recommendations are recommendations that need to be followed, and that is including having a plan in place, increasing awareness among employees, stipulating line management responsibilities, and routinely monitoring staff's mental health and well-being. Now, we've got some questions coming up. I can see that a lot of you have given some encouraging comments. We've got Nazreen Bibi, Fab Topic. Thank you very much, Nazreen. We also have Christian DeFeo. I'm a technologist. However, I believe there's a downside to technology, and that as the pace of our technology increases, more extensive connections become more common. We are more wired. We're working longer, more rapidly, and perhaps we're more prone to burnout. Does your practical experience bear these fears out? We will answer this after the break.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Sadly, millions of orphans living in the poorest countries lack the necessary support for a healthy childhood. These children have to endure lives of hardship without the basic necessities that would help them to grow, to learn, to live. Let's show them that we do care. Let's brighten up their future. Call 0161 225 0225 or visit humanappeal.org.uk.
Do you like the idea of being a radio presenter? Have you got a great idea for a show? Why not get in touch with us? We are always looking for enthusiastic, committed and professional individuals to join our team of volunteer presenters. Send us an email to info@salamradio.co.uk and we'll be in touch. You could be on air sooner than you think.
Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
ह्यूमन अपील और सलाम रेडियो पेश करते हैं प्राइड ऑफ पाकिस्तान। ये प्रोग्राम 6 शहरों पर मुश्तमिल है और पीटरबरा इन शहरों में से एक शहर है। इस प्रोग्राम की मेहज़बानी पाकिस्तान के बेहतरीन अदाकार कर रहे हैं, जिनमें आपके जाने पहचाने इकरारुल हसन, वसीम बदामी और होस्ट ज़हीर खान शामिल हैं। ये प्रोग्राम शाम को 6:30 बजे बरोज़ हफ्ता 25 नवंबर को बुल होटल वेस्ट गेट पीटरबरा में मुनक्किद होगा। इस प्रोग्राम में आपको हमारे बैनुल अक़वामी मेहमानों से और ख़ास करके इकरारुल हसन से उनके म्यांमार के दौरे का तज़किया सुनने का मौका मिलेगा। इस प्रोग्राम की टिकट £5 हैं। तमाम आमदनी रोहिंग्या के मुसलमानों की मदद के लिए इस्तेमाल होगी। जगह महदूद हैं। टिकट हासिल करने के लिए 07722558884 पर राब्ता करें।
Iqra Academy is the only Muslim girls' school in Cambridgeshire where your daughter will develop her knowledge of Islam and the national curriculum in a safe environment. Ofsted has judged the teaching and learning, leadership and management, pupil behaviour and personal development as good in June 2017. Iqra Academy's qualified staff teach in small classes, and the school is producing sports teams who have a track record of succeeding at national level. With reduced fees and a good rating 3 times from Ofsted, why not consider Iqra Academy for your daughter? Enroll now to avoid disappointment. Please contact 01733 331 433 or email admin@iqraacademy.org.uk.
In the middle of the night, there are 2 sounds a spreading household fire can make. Here's the first. And here's the second. Which would you rather hear? Make sure you fit a smoke alarm and test it weekly. Fire kills. You can prevent it.
This is Salaam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, listeners. This is one awesome show from the Body, Health and Mind show from Peterborough's Salaam Radio 106.2 FM. Do join us do join us for this show, which is about the most recent report that was released at the end of October by Theresa May, known as the Thriving at Work report. And we do have Dr. Shahid Latif, consultant psychiatrist, with us with his wonderful expertise. And we've been having a wonderful chat at the beginning of the show. Also, listeners, I did want to say to you that we do have a person on the show, a guest on the show, who will be calling in and speaking about their experience. So, Dr. Latif, it would be wonderful if we could give our insight as well. Now, just before the break, Dr. Latif, we had a comment here by Mr. Christian DeFeo, who says, I'm a technologist. However, I believe there is a downside to technology, that as the pace of our technology increases, for example, faster, more extensive connections becoming more common, we are more wired. We're working longer, we're working more rapidly, and perhaps we're more prone to burnout. Does your practical experience bear these fears out?
I think the way we are working at the moment is yes, because we are doing both.
Yeah.
We are working still how we used to work 20 years ago through that communication and the amount of work. That's now been added on by all these communications. And he's absolutely right that obviously there's a double stress now, and that's what I was alluding to earlier on, that we have so many things around us. I mean, only when I start, well, it's only about 8 years ago, when I used to go into outpatient clinics, I used to have a file in my hand. Not saying that that's the right thing. And it used to be me and the patient. Now I've got a computer in front of me, and I don't have any. We're paperless.
Yeah.
There's benefits in that,
Yeah.
but on the computer comes up all kinds of things. And this is just a very basic example. We have emails popping up. While we're talking to the patient, we have all these things. But with all these distractibilities, once we go, when we're in between clinics, etc., we have other things like our smartphones. We do utilize them for other things. Mm-hmm. So there are benefits, like example for BNF, which is the one of the formularies that we look at. So there are benefits what we look at. But I think he's absolutely right, though. There are benefits of having these at hand. The detriments are the connectivity that they come with. And because of those connectivities, and particularly in the case of the person who you're referring to, if he's a technologist and he's working in there, in that particular field, then obviously God knows, when we're talking about technology, we're talking about hands-on communication. So it must be coming from left, right, and center. So what kind of impact that's having on him? Yeah. The overload and the stress that might be causing. And it might be, if you allow me, I just want to discuss something on this case, and that goes back to when we talk about connectivity. I mean, I'm also going to talk about people who, and especially teenagers, older kids, and teenagers who've come through the whole process of playing games. I'm not talking about video games. I'm talking about later on games. Yeah. These computer games, which are really fast-paced, who are now in their teens and still play them. You see, there's a study which needs to be undertaken, but this is something that I've come across individuals who've come through from becoming teens and coming into adulthood, and a lot of them coming into my clinics. Yeah. And when we go through a thorough history, one of the things that comes to the fore is the amount of time people spend on computer games. Yeah. Now, okay, that's fine. Computer games, it takes them into a different realm. That's the leisure activity. Moderation is good, excess is bad. Yeah. But there's another thing there which needs to be highlighted, and that is in video games, in computer games, people are not in they're in a virtual world where it's very fast-paced. Yeah. You see? And that fast-pacedness, once you reach, and number one, it's fast-paced. Yeah. So your brain is going quite fast than it would in real time. And number two, the other thing is they have to achieve targets. Yeah. So in the game, they've actually achieved targets. So I'm just looking at from a psychiatrist that when we have a feel-good factor, we have dopamine and endorphins secreted in our beings. Yeah. And here we have an individual sitting in front of a computer playing games, number one, in a very fast-paced environment. Yeah. And number two, they're achieving things. So as far as they're concerned, they're doing wonderfully great.
Yeah.
But as far as people looking at them are concerned, they're just sitting there, putting on weight, spending so much time. So imagine the impact that's going to have. But then when that person comes out of the fast-paced virtual world and comes into the real world, what are they going to feel?
Absolutely.
They're going to feel slow boredom, a very slow-paced real time.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, you were finishing.
Go on, go on. Yeah,
no,
go on.
That's a really interesting perspective. And obviously, this is the reason why I needed an expert like you, because I would not have been able to see it from that angle. Neither would any of the employers that are listening, because this is a completely different perspective. And worth thinking about, actually, Dr. Latif. It definitely is. And we do have, actually, on the line right now, we have a Mr. Ghazali, who wanted to call in and share his experience of his stress at work. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Ghazali. You are live on Salaam Radio. Mr. Ghazali, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Ghazali. You're live on Salaam Radio. Hello. All right, so we're going to try and get Mr. Ghazali back. So in the meantime, yes, Dr. Latif, as you were suggesting in terms of how, there are other people that obviously live quite a sedentary lifestyle and continue to do that. But that, in a way, is a kind of therapy as well. We're talking about technology as well. And in its way, it's a type of therapy too. Yes, every type of therapy has its suitabilities for certain type of people. And some therapies don't have their suitabilities as well. And in the meantime, we have a brother Imad Qureshi who says, talking about stress, I work in a very busy emergency department and many colleagues, myself included, admit to feeling stressed before coming onto a night shift. We often talk about this and sometimes hear about healthy stress that helps you respond appropriately to difficult situation. What is your opinion about that, Dr. Latif?
Well, yes, that's a typical doctor working in an A&E environment. Again, I would say look at the whole package. Number one is the two-way traffic, which we were talking about. Number one is what is it that they can do in order to develop more resilience for themselves. Obviously, if they are feeling stressed even before coming on, that anticipatory stress, that is not a good sign.
Yeah.
So that means they are already entering into work. One ideally needs to enjoy the work that they do. And if they're feeling stressed from their own profession and something which they're going to be doing for the foreseeable future, that's not a good sign at all. So they need to be looking at their own structure, their own lifestyle, their own profession.
Yeah.
What is it at work which is causing them stress? And that's without any doubt in an A&E is going to be the non-stop work. Yeah. Is A&E, I mean, being a doctor, I'm assuming,
yes.
Are they in the right field? Because obviously what they don't want to do is, if it's causing them stress already just before going into work, obviously that's not going to get any lighter. Out of all these specialities, the most non-stop, hands-on, it's the killer is the A&E.
Yeah.
So it can't get any busier than that, can it?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So the word stress there, Brother Imad Qureshi, is the key thing to think about. And we'll try and go back to our caller now. Mr. Ghazali, are you on the line? Hello. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Can you hear?
Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to try this again.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay, we've tried. Okay. Well, we'll try and get you back. Hello. Right, we're trying to get connected with Mr. Ghazali over here. He had a story to share, which was obviously, it would have been extremely wonderful just to have a look and see what his experiences were all about. But we've had some really important points over here. And actually going back to that report now, Dr. Latif, where we were talking about, let's talk about some of the structures that need to be put in place with regards to the report and what the recommendations have been. And obviously having a plan in place when somebody is recognised to be having a mental health problem. These are indications for employers. Increasing awareness amongst employees, stipulating line management responsibilities, routinely monitoring staff's mental health and well-being. We sort of have that. Don't you think that these points are slightly vague and need to be a little bit more specific, Dr. Latif?
They do, and because we need to think about how often do line managers, service managers, how often do they talk to their employees about mental health specifically? We do talk about, for organizations to grow, to be productive, to achieve their objectives, etc., is really, really important. But along with that, being able to look after the people who are going to assist you and support you in achieving that is really important. You see, so you're absolutely right that these factors that you've highlighted as to, supervision's there. The person who provides the supervision, are they equipped enough to have an understanding of what stress is, what level of stress different people can be in, can stress lead to? Can they are they experienced enough to understand the causative factors of these stresses? Because if you don't understand the causes and you just deal with the symptom rather than the cause, then obviously you're not really hitting the nail on the head. So these factors are really, really important. Again, it's in the report, and I think and I hope that the people who are going to be devising the structure to be put and the menu to be put inside the structure, I hope it's very sensible, because it's really, really important. The report is very welcome, but you're absolutely right. It needs detail. Yeah,
we do need detail. And actually, it seems like we need more of an overhaul. You remember now it's come to many, many years when sort of significant events were being raised. We had some real critical incidents with regards to the health service and how social care and health care was being performed, and they brought in the Care Quality Commission. And now, we have our caller back. I'm just going to try and put him on. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Gaz Khan. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Seems like Salaam Radio's got some technical issues.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Okay, I think that we're not going to be able to speak to Mr. Gaz Khan today, which isn't a problem. But yes, absolutely. What you did say, following on from that, Dr. Latif, is that it seems like we need an overhaul of services, actually. We need to be looking more directly. We was talking about the Care Quality Commission, which came in, and GP practices up and down the country, hospitals up and down the country, providers of care up and down the country are now subject to scrutiny, I would call it, and quite rigid scrutiny when it comes to the services that they provide. Some see this as being unfair, and some see this as being a welcome change. We all do need a level of what I would say monitoring, but in the same way, I do think that something needs to be put into training, perhaps in induction. We talk about infection control, fire and safety, discrimination and equality. We've got to do all of those modules, and I do think that the time has now come to address mental health, hasn't it?
Yes, you're right. And the good thing is that when we're talking about education and awareness, and that's really important. The positive thing is not that it's good to see people suffering from mental health problems, but we have more household names coming forward. We're talking about celebrities, and we're talking about footballers and sports individuals and personalities who are coming to the fore and talking. And then we had Prince Harry talking about mental health and taking it up as an item and an agenda. So these kind of things only help, and it's absolutely fantastic, and might have even prompted this whole report in the first place.
Yeah.
So yes, the right things are being said and done, but again, meat on the bone is required.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a structure. And what you've just highlighted a minute ago was absolutely right. There needs to be a pathway where individuals can understand what they are feeling, and when they are feeling it, where do they go to? And the person who they goes to, they need to have a good understanding of what do they do with that. A package comes to them, they unpack. What do they do with the unpacked package? That's really important.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And this is why, actually just talking to you about it, because we are having a conversation, I think it's a big conversation that we're having. it actually has made me feel so much more better as a health professional, as an employee. To be able to talk about this whole experience and this report, it has been quite therapeutic, if I may say so.
Great.
Which is really good. And I've got, actually, I've had some text coming in here. I've got she wishes to remain anonymous. I had to take time off work due to a bereavement. I lost my daughter when she was 6 years old. We were very sorry to hear that, sister. I took a year off work supported by the company I was working for. I went back and worked for a month. My mental health fluctuated, but because of the delay in access to services, I had to leave work on medical grounds due to my mental health. 10 years on and I'm recovered, but because of the gap I've had in my employment and on my CV, I have been unable to get a job. It hasn't helped me at all. I feel discriminated because of my illness that I had, even though I was remotely supported. Wow.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. Well, sister, first of all, our hearts do go out to you, and we obviously can't imagine what you've been through in the past, and only you would know your experience. Dr. Latif, what are your thoughts on what the sister has had to say?
Yes, very sorry to hear about the loss and also the experience subsequently experienced. It's very sad. However, it's not uncommon to hear such stories of an individual because of their life events and circumstances and tragedies. They fall victim to mental health problem, and as a result has an impact on their work. And as a result, they have to leave their work, and it brings about a big gap. And because of the big gap, they find it very, difficult to get back into the labor market again, which then takes them into a full circle as well as to not being able to work. Many people, or majority of the people, want to be out there. They want to work. They need a structure in their life, and they're not able to achieve that. Obviously, that can cause further anguish and stress for individuals. So it's not just work which may cause the stress. It's not being able to work for many, many people. Which you can call it. So it's basically a vicious circle which individuals can get stuck in. And again, this is something, we're coming back to the report again, something that needs to be highlighted, that when individuals do experience mental health problems and due to life experiences, and we get bereavements all the time. We get a huge number of patients being forwarded to us. I just saw 2 patients today who have bereavements recently and have had to have time off work. I'm glad to say that in both of the occasions, the employees had been extremely supportive towards them. But in many cases, in the majority of cases, they won't. So I hope that this report encourages, this kind of example that that the person who's texted. These are the kind of examples which need to be taken on board, and individuals who do have experience adverse life events and subsequently do succumb to those and become mentally unwell, and they are working, and what kind of support they receive from work, what kind of support that they receive of taking time off work, what kind of support they receive on having a phased return to work, and it's appropriate to them. And that phased return to work is so important. I couldn't stress on it more. And on top of that, in individuals, going retrospectively, if they have had time off work because of their mental health problems, how can employees help them? How can they help them in assisting them to coming back to work?
Yes, that's a very important thing. And sister, my heart goes out to you because we are trained as medical professionals, especially in primary care, Dr. Latif, where we actually, for our training, we have to do a module about employment law and how we encourage people to go back into work and to advise them of the health benefits of working, which is all well and good. But sister, in your case, when I think that you have such a good insight, seems as if you really have worked hard with yourself as well to try to get to where you are, and then unfortunately not have the opportunity of being able to work again, where we feel that it would have complemented your mental health, is very, very sad. And this is where the change needs to take place. And my heart does go out for you. And I really do wish that shows such as these, in which Dr. Latif and myself are trying to create awareness, you would be able to get some inspiration from that. And we're going to try to go back again to Brother Gaz Ali. We're going to try again once more. Okay. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Hello,
Hello.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Salaam Radio.
Yes, can you
Can
hear?
anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Brother Ghazali. Can you hear
Hello,
us?
Salaam Radio.
Well, I think that poor Brother Ghazali, we would have loved to have shared your story with us, but unfortunately, I don't think that it is working. But hopefully, down the road, we will be able to get the opportunity to share your story again. So please don't be disheartened. We will share your story and we will get you back on. In the meantime, as well, we are approaching the end of the show, and it's been a fabulous show. I've got a comment here from an Alex. Employers should support employees with mental health issues. It should be classed as a disability, like other debilitating illnesses. But the chronic form of mental health illnesses usually can be in circumstances where patients are unable to function and perform their daily activities of life, usually are classified as a disability. What is your sort of viewpoint on that, Dr. Latif, in terms of what Alex has just said? Is it classed as a disability as easily as other chronic illnesses are?
When we talk about, and thank you, Alex, that's an important point. When we talk about certain illnesses, because when we talk about mental disorders, we class them into two types. We have psychosis and neurosis.
Yeah.
Psychotic disorders come under psychosis, and these are obviously severe and enduring mental illnesses like schizoaffective disorders, schizophrenia, etc. So there's, these are sort of more or less in majority of the cases, sort of chronic mental health problems. And these are classed as disabilities. And I'm including bipolar within that as well.
Yeah.
But then we have the other end is the neurotic type disorders, which we talk about, like anxiety disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, etc. So these are the ones where people don't lose contact with reality, and they are in contact, but they feel debilitated from the day-to-day functioning subjectively. So many of these, obviously, they come under mild, moderate, and severe, and depending on where they are, in majority of the cases, unfortunately, they are not considered as disabilities because individuals are expected, due to lack of understanding or lack of awareness of mental health problems, many of these are not classed as disabilities, and this is something that really needs to be looked at and recognized and re-established. Obviously, we're not saying that each and every mental health problem and issue needs to be described. In every illness, every individual needs to be measured on their own merit. But I don't think we can ignore common mental health problems, which could be at a severe end. And I'm talking about common mental health problems like severe depression and very severe anxiety.
Absolutely, and I think there is a very big role to play with, obviously coming from the topic of the original, the show originally, and that is a very, very big role to play in terms of assisting, I would say, secondary care mental health services, primary care mental health services, whereby employers have a massive undertaking in terms of supporting people who are suffering from mental health problems and redesigning with them perhaps a back to work policy in which they can structure and redesign that can sort of offload from the mental health services and with primary care services as well, and people can actually begin to look forward to and enjoy the optimism that something is being done for them in their life, because it's often two very separate facets. The medical community and the employment community don't really communicate with each other unless they've started going to the job centre and getting sick notes for their mental health illness, isn't it? So perhaps a little bit more communication facilitated between both the medical and the employment agencies would also be constructive.
Absolutely, Shabina. Not only them, but also the Department of Work and Pensions, and also social services of different. We receive what we call as PIPs on almost a daily basis for patients.
Yeah.
They are very, very basic forms which we have to fill in. It doesn't allow us to give the amount of detail which is required. Many patients obviously are able to get back to work. Many patients can't.
Yeah.
So it causes them a lot of problems and further anxiety.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And we've reached the end of our show. Dr. Latif, thank you for making it a very popular show. You know, you do have your own fan base as well since last time. So I'm very, very certain for the people that have come and listened today because of you.
I'm sure it's not me, Shabina. I'm sure it's you.
Oh, and you know, the thing is that we can work together and bring about change. So thank you so much for your valuable input. And I will indeed be having you on again because I really do benefit from your expertise.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me on, Shabina.
Thank you very much, Dr. Latif. Assalamu alaikum. And for all of you who've been listening to the show, thank you very much indeed. I wanted to give a shout out to a young little boy called Ali and a little girl called Ira Noor who watches my show very regularly with her mummy. And thank you very much for listening to the show, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And now what we're going to be doing is promoting the Pride of Pakistan event that takes place on the 25th of November. It's going to be taking place at the Bull Hotel, Westgate, Peterborough, PE11RB. Please contact the following telephone number, 07722 55 8884 for tickets. It needs to be a sold-out event. It will be wonderful. The Salaam radio presenters will be there. Thank you very much for listening to the Body, Health and Mind Show.